For generations, humanity has scanned the heavens, not just for new worlds, not just for faint whispers of radio waves, but for anomalies, those rare cosmic rebels that refuse to follow the rules of physics. And now, the James Webb Space Telescope may have caught one in the act. What began as a routine observation of the third interstellar visitor ever charted in our solar system has become something far stranger, far darker, and infinitely more important. Out in the frozen void beyond Mars, Webb detected a signal it should never have seen. Not starlight, not comet tail glow, artificial light, a luminous trace that no asteroid, no comet, no natural body should produce. A signature that bends no known laws of reflection or refraction. Astronomers and astrophysicists are stunned, left circling a single, bone-chilling question. What is 3I Atlas really? Stay with us, because this discovery has reignited the oldest and most terrifying question of all. Are we truly alone? 3I Atlas first appeared as a ghostly speck on the edge of the solar system, following a path no local object could match. Clearly interstellar, it had been born far beyond the sun's gravity, flung across the galaxy by forces we can only imagine, now drifting silently into our celestial backyard. At first, it was logged as a curiosity, much like its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. But even from the earliest images, something felt wrong. Unlike typical interstellar wanderers, 3I Atlas was dazzlingly bright, yet not in any way that added up. Its magnitude defied its estimated size and composition. It shimmered with an eerie steadiness, glowing neither weaker with distance nor brighter with outgassing or dust. It was as if its radiance were sustained from within, as though powered. Global telescopes locked on, but only Webb, with its unmatched infrared vision, could peel back the mystery. And what it revealed changed everything. See the unseen. Its mission: to cut through stellar glare and reveal what hides in the cosmic shadows. Astronomers expected its gaze on 3I Atlas to untangle confusion. Instead, it deepened the mystery. Webb's instruments picked up a centralized thermal emission that defied every rule of natural reflection. Normally, comets shine because sunlight scatters off their dust and ice, but 3I Atlas glowed from within. It wasn't reflected light, it was emitted light, radiating outward from its core. Thermal mapping revealed a distribution that matched no natural object ever recorded. Even more unsettling, it pulsed, faint, irregular, yet undeniably rhythmic. Not noise, but a cycle. Not chaos, but the whisper of design. Some at NASA and ESA scrambled for explanations. Radioactive decay, exotic isotopes, subsurface friction. But as data poured in, every natural hypothesis unraveled. The last possibility left was the one no one dared write down. This object might be powered. Observations from Webb, Hubble, and ground telescopes painted a profile stranger still. Its trajectory was too precise, bending through gravity wells with subtle, deliberate corrections, as though it chose its path. Its spin was eerily stable, free from the normal tumbling drift of inertial bodies, and when it neared solar radiation, still no cometary tail, suggesting a protective shell, a casing shielding it from the sun. Then came the revelation that sent shockwaves across the astronomical community. Its albedo, its reflectivity, was measured to be nearly perfect in places. Not rock, not ice, metal. Polished, mirror-like metal glinting in the void. If 3I Atlas was structured, metallic, and emitting energy from within, then it was no longer just a natural traveler. It was something else entirely. We were no longer looking at rock or ice. We were watching technology in motion. The word probe began creeping into hallway whispers. Beacon craft, artifact, even spacecraft. The idea that this could be an alien vehicle moved out of fringe forums and into encrypted institutional threads. Conversations inside observatories and agency inboxes shifted, tense, urgent, and incredulous all at once. Photometric analysis delivered the coldest chill. The light from 3I Atlas was concentrated into a narrow spectral band. This wasn't a broad passive reflection of sunlight, but a focused emission of specific wavelengths, exactly the kind of controlled output we build into LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft beacons. That precision smelled of intent, not accident. Even more startling, that band overlapped frequencies humans use for communication and guidance systems. The intensity also seemed to respond to solar input, as if an onboard regulator made minute adjustments in real time. The glow didn't flutter randomly. It pulsed with an intermittent, patterned cadence, behavior that suggests a system at work, not idle debris. Scientists ran the pulses through every known signal model. The results were inconclusive but far from meaningless. Some analysts heard hints of binary-like sequences. Others argued for a rotating power source. The unavoidable conclusion crystallized. This was not passive. It was active, doing something intentional, something deliberate. We were watching it unfold in real time, raw data streaming in, every line more electrifying than the last. A joint team of astrophysicists from MIT and Harvard dove deep into the electromagnetic emissions of 3I Atlas. At first, the frequencies looked like static, random noise scattered across the spectrum. But then they applied Fourier transforms to sift out hidden cycles, and something incredible appeared. Buried beneath the chaos was a structured repeating pulse, too clean, too precise to be natural. It wasn't binary, nor did it match any modulation used in terrestrial tech, but it carried the unmistakable fingerprint of deliberate encoding. Some speculated it was a beacon, a repeating broadcast meant for receivers not of Earth. Others thought it might be telemetry, data streamed back to wherever this craft originated. The most chilling detail? The message never changed. From Webb's first detection onward, the signal remained locked, as though 3I Atlas wasn't speaking to us at all, but to someone else, someone who may already have received it. News of the discovery raced through the upper echelons of science and defense. A classified NASA report, later leaked to a journalist, revealed that officials were quietly coordinating with global space agencies, assessing whether 3I Atlas was a benign relic or a potential threat. Some researchers argued it was ancient, perhaps a centuries-old probe drifting on a pre-programmed course, but others raised questions no one could silence. If it's transmitting, who's listening? If it glows, does it also propel itself? And if it arrived here by design, why now? The report even suggested a remote but terrifying possibility, that 3I Atlas wasn't merely passing through, but observing, tracking planetary alignments, electromagnetic fields, or perhaps even intelligent civilizations. And if that was true, then the darker thought emerged. What if it isn't alone? What if something else is already en route? Forcing a closer look at 3I Atlas's strange luminosity birthed a revolutionary idea. This thing wasn't merely glowing, it was harvesting energy. The object's light rose and fell with its distance from the sun in a way that didn't match chemical outgassing or simple reflection, pointing instead to a solar collection array or an embedded photonic absorption system beneath its surface. Harvard theorist Avi Loeb and a cluster of colleagues pushed the hypothesis further. The surrounding dust cloud might be doing double duty, serving as camouflage to hide a structured interior, while acting as a medium to funnel stellar photons into onboard collectors. If true, 3I Atlas could be a self-sustaining interstellar craft, refueling at each star it passes, a cosmic drifter running on stolen sunlight. That idea fits unsettling theoretical models of long-lived probes, engineered machines that sleep for centuries and only liven when they hit a system worth investigating. If our sun triggered such activation, then the probe's silent beacon had already been answered elsewhere, and we were witnessing the aftermath of that handshake. As agencies around the world scrambled, one uncomfortable truth became obvious. We are not ready. Decades of speculation about extraterrestrial contact had not prepared our political, scientific, and philosophical systems for a slow, quiet encounter that unfolds in data and light rather than spectacle. Leaked internal documents from teams in France, Japan, and Brazil all hinted at the same unnerving possibility. Those briefs suggested this wasn't a mere anomaly but a first contact in slow motion. There was no triumphant landing, no cinematic arrival, only telemetry, photometry, and an eerie stillness. Webb kept watching daily, and every new measurement answered one question only to raise two more. If this is contact, it's on their terms, not ours. Quiet, distant, and unsettling, it feels less like an invitation and more like surveillance. The most terrifying thought? We may already be seen. And then, just when astronomers believed 3I Atlas had settled into a steady, predictable path, something unexpected happened. Anomalies that would force the world to choose whether to watch, to respond, or to pretend nothing had changed. Its luminosity spiked dramatically. This was not a slow brightening from merely drawing nearer to the sun. Webb captured a sudden flare in real time, confirmed by multiple ground observatories, which saw the object's brightness leap nearly 40% in under 2 minutes before settling at a higher plateau. No natural cause fit the observations. There was no signature of solar-wind interaction, no collision, no breakup of fragments. It looked as if someone, or something, had flipped a switch. The flare carried a matched change in the object's thermal fingerprint, as though internal systems had powered up. Theorists began whispering an even more bone-chilling idea. 3I Atlas might have entered an awakened phase, triggered either by the star's light or by our own scrutiny. If the brightening was deliberate, it was meant to be noticed, and shortly after the flare, orbital solutions from several space agencies revealed another shock. 3I Atlas was no longer following its predicted path. It had shifted slightly, subtly but measurably, and gravity alone couldn't explain the deviation. Radiation, pressure, and the usual non-gravitational forces, often blamed for tiny course nudges, failed to account for the change. The new vector pointed deeper into the inner system with an altered inclination that edged it closer to Earth's orbital plane. The object had effectively changed lanes. If 3I Atlas could execute even limited propulsion or navigation, then it was not a dead relic at all, but a vessel under some form of control, a craft with intent. As it swept into range of spectrometers aboard Webb and Hubble, the chemical story turned darker. Traces of highly reflective alloys and rare Earth elements appeared, and, most alarming, spectral absorption features that matched nothing in our catalogs. Those unknown lines hinted at compounds beyond our periodic map, materials that challenged chemistry and engineering alike. The data sparked urgent debates, a powered object awakening, a course change toward the plane of life, and exotic materials never seen before. Signs that the universe had just presented us with a cosmic puzzle far more complex than anyone had imagined. These were not materials you'd find in a frozen shard of interstellar rock. They looked engineered, or at minimum synthesized under conditions that don't occur in nature. One spectral profile matched no known chemical process, instead mirroring theoretical compounds dreamed up in quantum material labs. Substances expected only under extreme magnetic confinement or quantum-scale pressures. The implication was enormous. Either this object carries relics of a civilization older than our history by millennia, or it was recently manufactured by a culture far beyond our own. The makeup of the materials spoke louder than any intercepted transmission. Even if the code remained undeciphered, the messenger itself shouted, "Unnatural," with mounting evidence pointing squarely at artifice. Governments and agencies reacted, not with public statements but with urgent clandestine measures. Observatory networks were ramped to higher encryption. Research teams were quietly reassigned. Satellite operators logged unexplained recalibrations across continents. Spacefaring nations slipped into discreet contingency talks behind closed doors, the kind of quiet scramble that only comes when the rules change. A leaked memo from an international defense consortium argued a chilling theory. 3I Atlas might be a scout, not a lone wanderer. Its unusual architecture, steady rotation, and capacity to remain operational across interstellar gulfs all matched profiles of long-term observation probes designed to watch and report. If it was scouting, what exactly was it cataloging? Planetary alignments, magnetic signatures, biosignatures, or civilizations? Across universities, observatories, and command centers, a grim consensus began to form. We were no longer the only sentient actors under the stars, and first contact might not be a greeting, but an assessment. When debate reached fever pitch, a daring team at the SETI Institute acted. They beamed a focused radio pulse toward the projected track of 3I Atlas, containing universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and simple visual depictions of humanity, an outgoing handshake into the dark. It was meant to be a cosmic handshake, a cautious hello. Days slipped by, then a week, and no answer. Just when the experiment was about to be filed as another unanswered call into the void, a monitoring station in Chile flagged something odd. A narrow-band return pulse, off frequency and distorted, but timed to mirror our original transmission. It wasn't language. It wasn't a simple echo. It was a ping, a processed return with just enough variance to prove it wasn't passive reflection. The SETI team froze when they realized the timing. The reply arrived precisely 72 hours after transmission to the second. That meant whatever received our signal had calculated the delay and chosen to answer deliberately. After the detection, observatories worldwide began to see technical anomalies cascade through their systems. Webb's infrared maps jittered with erratic thermal readings never seen since launch, and Hubble's gyros logged microfluctuations despite rock-steady orientation. Ground telescopes blamed software bugs and bad nights at first. Misaligned star charts, strange pixel artifacts, frozen data streams when cameras were aimed at 3i Atlas. Those errors weren't random. They clustered in synchronized windows as if coordinated, like someone didn't want us looking too closely. A theory leaked from a Black Ops think tank inside the European Space Agency. The object wasn't merely sending signals, it was selectively interfering, jamming, masking, controlling what we could observe. The implications were staggering. A passive visitor hides nothing. A scout conceals its work. If 3i Atlas could manage our instrument's view, then we weren't the ones doing the observing. We were being allowed to see what it wanted us to see. And then the silence deepened. Within days of the return ping and the cascade of malfunctions, web updates were delayed, access was restricted, and data streams were quietly rerouted. Moves that screamed one thing. Whatever had replied could also choose how much of itself to reveal. Public logs went dark and access vanished overnight. The European Space Agency issued a vague note about instrument recalibration. NASA fell silent. And even reputable journals that had been tracking 3i Atlas began retracting coverage or publishing thin, neutral summaries, stripped of detail and nuance. The astrophysics community fractured into camps. Some argued that agencies were simply verifying results before a full disclosure, while others suspected something far darker, that the facts had been confirmed and then contained. A handful of independent observatories tried to keep the light on, streaming raw datasets to the public, but their efforts were drowned in a tidal wave of misinformation and wild speculation. What began as a shared global mystery had been recast as a strategic asset, and history teaches a grim lesson. When governments declare a discovery classified, truth too often suffocates in silence. In a last-ditch scientific push, a coalition of astronomers and mathematicians turned to pattern recognition and probability theory for answers. They weren't hunting for words or language anymore, they were hunting for proof of intent, and what they found was bone-chilling. When the object's trajectory was plotted against planetary positions, its path traced a Fibonacci arc, a spiral of proportional beauty that crops up across nature, and, tellingly, in many Earth-based communication schemes. Even more uncanny, the timing of its course corrections, the light flares, and the return ping all aligned with prime number sequences. The probability of such coincidences arising naturally was astronomically small, so small that the only reasonable inference was choice, not chance. These signals weren't accidental. These mathematical signatures had been selected. That meant 3i Atlas wasn't merely passing through, it was navigating with precision as if following a map or a timetable. A few bold theorists began to whisper the unthinkable. This might not be an interstellar probe in the way we imagined, but an interstellar message, not written in glyphs but encoded in motion and timing, and we may have just read its first word. As the dust of confusion slowly settles, one hard truth refuses to be ignored. From the unnatural glow to the exotic materials and the deliberate trajectory tweaks, every fragment of evidence points to a single, unsettling conclusion. This is not a natural rock. This is an engineered actor on a stage far larger than we first suspected. For decades, we've stared up and wondered, maybe we haven't been alone for a very long time, and maybe we were never meant to know. The James Webb Telescope, built to peer into the birth of galaxies, may instead have caught something that looked back, a presence ancient and deliberate, watching not from some distant star system but from the threshold of our own celestial neighborhood. And yet silence reigns. Agencies refuse to speak. The raw data is locked away. The world, it seems, has been judged not ready, while we trace that impossible light and mapped an impossible path. So what happens next? Was 3i Atlas merely passing through, cataloging our little blue world before moving on? Or is this the first arrival in a much larger play? The choice between relic and recon suddenly feels like the hinge of history. Maybe it's the first of many probes, a scout paving the way for something greater. Or maybe it's a message encoded in motion, machine, signal, or something else beyond our taxonomy. What matters is this: It came, it saw, it answered, and somewhere in the cold dark, something may now be turning its attention toward the planet that blinked first. If you want to follow every step of this unfolding cosmic reveal, like and subscribe to Deep Orbit, share this with someone who still thinks we're alone, and leave a comment below. Do you think 3I Atlas was an accident or an invitation?